Of all the fairies, scary or otherwise, the Gancanagh stands out. Though many have never heard of this elusive fairy, to hear of him is to become almost instantly intrigued. Perhaps this speaks to the strength of the Gancanagh's magic, that those who have only heard his stories and not met the man in person still feel the tug of this fairy's almost gravitational pull. This is also what makes him so dangerous. The Gancanagh is a seducer, a beguiler, an enchanter. Like the Venus flytrap or a spider web covered in droplets of dew, he lures in order to imprison and to ultimately destroy. The Gancanagh appears as a most beautiful man, the ideal man to all who come across him, with perfect features and eyes like the wilderness, wild and dark and mysterious enough to get lost in. Known as the love talker in Irish and Scottish lore, this silver-tongued devil will tell you just what you want most to hear, and then sweep you away in a one-of-a-kind romance that can never be rivaled or repeated. And then, just as swiftly, he'll be gone, leaving you to ache and yearn and dream of him forever. He'll have won your heart, but you can never have his. This is the pain that the Gancanagh delivers into the lives of those he touches, the pain of desperate, unrequited love. No one knows why the Gancanagh does what he does, bewitches victims and then abandons them to pine away. Some say that his motives are pure, that he's on an honest quest for a true and ideal love, but hasn't found the right one yet. Others theorize that he was in love once, but that this love ended in tragedy, leaving him to wander the world in the vain search for something exactly and precisely like what he lost. While others suggest that his drive to drift from broken heart to broken heart is in fact a curse, handed to him as a punishment for some great crime he committed against the fairy people, or perhaps against a powerful fairy queen. But it could also be that these stories meant to cast him in a sympathetic light are rumors spread by the Gancanagh himself, meant to weaken the defenses of potential victims. For the evidence of his actions suggests that this fairy is no more than a cold collector of broken hearts. Whatever the case, it's probably best to beware of this fairy romancer, who, in 1,000 years of lore, has only ever taken hearts and never given his. Turn your cloaks, the old British saying goes, for fairy folks are in old oaks. There are many such sayings about the fairies in trees, hinting at a profound connection between the fairy people and the forests of the world. One fairy that seems even more connected than others to root and branch and bark and leaf is the Ghillie Dhu of Scottish lore. The Ghillie Dhu, or dark-haired lad, is a solitary fairy who haunts old-growth forests, especially birch woods, where towering silver-white trees creak and shift in the wind. The Ghillie Dhu is a nocturnal creature who tends only to appear after twilight and before dawn. With the ability to perform precise, magical acts of camouflage, the Ghillie Dhu appears as a young boy whose skin and hair, eyes and teeth shift magically as he moves, like a walking mirror, to reflect the trees and the shadows, making him all but invisible to human eyes. The Ghillie Dhu is fiercely protective of his privacy and of his trees, which he dotes over and protects like children. To wander accidentally into the Ghillie Dhu's forest is to risk incurring the wrath of this fairy, who may treat you as a threatening intruder and punish you accordingly. The arms of the Ghillie Dhu are said to extend down from high branches like vines and snatch up unsuspecting humans from the forest floor. Once ensnared in the Ghillie Dhu's tangled grip, he may strangle you to death or crush you in hands as powerful as falling trees. until you are no more than mulch fit to feed his hungry birches. If he takes a morbid interest in you, he may enslave you or torture you before he does you in, whisking you away to a shadow world where trees are all that exist in every direction, on and forever, where there is no forest floor, only trunks and tangled branches without end. There he'll mock you with whispers and laughters that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Or else he'll hang you by your ankles with branches as strong as chains and whip you till you bleed with stinging, cracking vines. But the Ghillie Dhu isn't solely malevolent. There's a kind side to this forest fairy, especially when it comes to children. There are stories of children who found themselves lost in the Ghillie Dhu's forest, who not only survived their encounters with this prowling fairy, but who were helped by him. One story in particular tells of a young girl named Jessie McCree, who got lost in a birch wood after dark. She met the Ghillie Dhu, who comforted her and told her not to fear, and took her by the hand and led her to safety out of the forest. Older stories suggest that the Ghillie Dhu may have once been much kinder to humans in general, but that centuries of human encroachment and the destruction of his beloved forest has turned him cruel and hardened his heart toward us, though he still respects the innocence of children. For this reason, it is best to stay clear of beautiful birch forests with silver-white bark and gently creaking branches, for this realm does not belong to us, and there is a spirit in the woods with intentions of his own. The fairy people are known to be skilled in a variety of art forms. From music to dance to poetry, it is said that no human can rival a fairy's talent. And when the fairies choose to specialize in one skill or another, their abilities reach a kind of supernatural zenith. One such group, the Gianes of northern Italy, have mastered the art of weaving, and so skilled are they at this particular craft that their weaving is able to open up a window in time. The Gianes haunt forests and caverns. Dressed in peasant clothing or stringy rags, they are sometimes glimpsed between the trees or deep in dank caves, sitting in circles, weaving thread back and forth between giant spinning wheels. As the wheels of the Gianes spin, these fairies gaze into their hypnotic centers, and time in the future opens up to them and becomes like a readable book instead of a murky mist. But the Gianes don't seem all that interested in this ability of theirs to peek into the future. Instead, they seem most content to weave exquisite lengths of cloth, perhaps meant to clothe some exalted fairy king or queen. When encountered by humans, the Gianes can sometimes be convinced to offer up a future prediction, but only if the right words are spoken. A prediction delivered by the Gianes, however, may not always be desirable. The Gianes do not mince words and will bluntly and cruelly tell you the worst your future has to offer, leaving you potentially distraught at what's to come. Their predictions may also come with a price. You may find yourself owing the Gianes some strange favor in return for their services. A lock of hair, a finger, a firstborn child. In the future, the Gianes foretell may also be more of a curse than an actual prediction, binding you to some terrible fate you might have avoided had you never laid eyes on these perpetually spinning fairies. For this reason, it is best to walk away from the Gianes if you see them, though if you find a spare piece of cloth exquisitely woven, left behind by these fairies, it is said to bring good luck. So pick it up, offer a respectful bow, and don't look back. In Scotland, a fairy known as the Cleestick is sometimes spoken of in hushed whispers. This ghost-like fairy is known to haunt out-of-the-way farms, forests, fields, and streams, unnerving all those who encounter her. She appears as a solitary wanderer, dressed in a draping green gown, with long blonde hair and pale skin that shimmers with a grayish tint. At times she appears as a beautiful and alluring woman, with rosy cheeks and innocent eyes. But like many of the fairies who disguise themselves under a veil of glamour, she has one unnatural feature she is unable to hide away. For the Cleestick is half woman, half goat, and hides cloven hooves under her rippling skirts. As she walks, drifting down lonely roads in the dead of night, you might hear the clip-clop of her hooves on the pavement and assume you are about to encounter someone on horseback. But when the Cleestick emerges out of the mist, her long hair running over her shoulders like water, you will find no horse, no goat, no animal at her side. Only this strange lady, standing statue still, her long dress concealing the truth of her. The Cleestick is known to be fond of milk, and has been witnessed raiding dairy farms and gorging herself sloppily on the white liquid. More ominously, the Cleestick has also been known to gorge herself on human men, luring them with her beauty and then dragging them away to her lair. There she keeps them captive, slowly draining them bit by bit of their blood, like a vampire. Sometimes called the Green Maiden or the Green Lady because of the old-fashioned green gowns she is known to wear. Some have theorized that the Cleestick is living out a long and horrible curse. In these stories, the Cleestick was once a human woman, a noble who developed a fascination and indeed obsession with the fairy people. But then, one day when she was wearing a beautiful green dress, she was murdered by her manservant for unknown reasons and stuffed up a chimney. The fairies who had noted her interest in them took pity on her and granted her fairy nature so she could seek her revenge. This is why the Cleestick seeks out men for punishment, draining their blood slowly until they die. The gift that the fairies gave her, as so often with fairy gifts, was also a curse, so that even after finding justice for her own murder, she was unable to let go and must now kill again and again in order to feel whole. But there is a good side to the Cleestick as well that hints that there may be more to her story. She has been known to sometimes help farmers or travelers in need, and is shown a special fondness for lost or neglected children, who she watches over and protects. The larger story of the Cleestick and why she does what she does may never be known, but what is known is that this green lady should be avoided at all costs, and left alone to drink her milk and wander the countryside. Chaos, madness, destruction for its own sake. If there is one fairy that embodies these forces, it is the Goblin. Known by a variety of names, hobgoblins, boggarts, hobs and gobs, boogies, padfoot, hobbers and blobs, goblins are the jokers of the fairy world, delighting in mischief and havoc of all kinds. Described as short and squat with squished, impish faces and large ears, goblins are in heaven when they're making someone else's life hell. These sly and playful sprites invade houses and farms, old churches and pubs, and deliver their own unique brand of turmoil to inhabitants. This includes all sorts of poltergeist-like activity, from overturning furniture to banging pots and pans in the middle of the night, to tangling up hair or pinching backsides, or even digging up graves. One gets the impression that goblins are almost like cruel and unruly children. But goblins can cause much more trouble than bratty kids. They are known to be master thieves and can rob a person blind if they are so inclined. Capable of shapeshifting, goblins often get into locked or hard-to-access places by transforming into an animal. Whether a rat, cat, dog, or bird, whatever animal best matches that particular goblin's personality. Goblins have also been known to cause serious injury with their pranks or even death, and feel no remorse whatsoever about the fallout of their actions. That's because goblins are what we might call psychopathic. They have no morals at all and no empathy for those they might hurt, though they are more than happy to use bad behavior on the part of humans as an excuse to torment us. For this reason, goblins may target thieves or liars or just people who have recently been impolite, though they have also been known to target the innocent too, and seem to particularly enjoy tormenting young children. The havoc goblins cause they create with a kind of manic glee, their laughter becoming a terrible contagion if overheard by human ears. Goblins have also been known to act as foot soldiers for other malicious fairies when war and chaos is the goal, so their presence may in some cases be the result of a more complicated territorial or personal dispute amongst other fairies. But in most cases, goblins target particular people or locations entirely randomly, so there is no way to avoid or prevent a goblin attack. Though, once goblins have infected a home, especially if they take a liking to the place, it may take nothing less than a full exorcism to remove them. Most everyone has heard of the Gremlins, but many are confused as to what these creatures actually are. Unlike stories of the fairies more generally, which stretch back into the deep shadows of human history, tales of the Gremlins only started to emerge recently with the advent of machinery. For the Gremlins are tinkerers, master craftsmen with a superhuman talent for technology. Though descriptions of gremlins vary, they are most often described as short and goblin-like, with long fingers and pointed teeth. And in fact, gremlins may be a highly specialized subtype of goblin. Early stories of the gremlins suggest that they may have once been positively disposed towards humanity and encouraging of our fledgling attempts at mechanical technologies. It is said that gremlins had a hand in such inventions as the steam engine, the internal combustion engine, the hydraulic press, and even the discovery of electricity. But then, around World War II, tales of the Gremlins started to turn sinister. British pilots with the old Royal Naval Air Force and later the Royal Air Force were the first to report stories of strange creatures sneaking onto their planes and wreaking havoc. Gremlins who can survive and even thrive in all altitudes and conditions, whether inside or outside of a plane, were said to cut wires, jam radio signals, puncture gas tanks, slash tires, meddle with landing gear, yank out bolts and screws, and even cause dangerous hallucinations. Stories of gremlins were common amongst British pilots, not just whispered between each other, but submitted onto official reports. And it wasn't just British pilots who told these stories. Allied and Axis forces, all nationalities involved in the war, shared reports of mischievous creatures tampering with their airplanes. At the very least, it appears the gremlins were not taking sides in this battle. Why the gremlins began to target pilots during World War II is a mystery. It may be that they objected to the war itself, though the fairy people have never shied away from conflict. Or it may be that they objected to human beings in the air at all, that they considered it an act of hubris on our parts and wanted to keep us grounded. Whatever the case, tales of gremlins tampering with our machinery have become less frequent over the years, suggesting that these terrible tinkerers may have come to terms with humanity's adoption of technology. Perhaps some truce or agreement behind the scenes is what keeps the sharp fingers of the gremlins from once again meddling with our devices. If that's the case, as we become ever more reliant on our technologies, we can only hope that that truce holds. Thanks for watching, and special thanks, as always, goes out to my amazing supporters on Patreon. You guys are the best. If you like this content and you'd like to support it on Patreon, there's a link in the description, including several other support options as well. And if you have a fairy encounter you'd like to share, I'm definitely collecting those as always, so please send them along. You'll find my email in the description. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're new. And press the bell for notifications, because it seems like YouTube doesn't send notifications to everybody, only those who have pressed the bell, so make sure that you press that. And until next time, this has been a visit from your scary fairy godmother.